There's a ring on your finger right now, or on the finger of someone sitting near you. It's probably never come off since the day it went on. It's the single most sentimental object most people will ever own, and it's also one of the only pieces of jewelry humans wear constantly, through manual labor, through the gym, through climbing over a fence, through everything. And here's something nobody tells you when they slide it on. Under the right conditions, that ring can take your finger with it in under a second, and the mechanism behind it is almost nothing like what people assume. Because most people think the danger is a ring getting too tight, circulation cut off, finger swelling, someone showing up to the ER to get a stuck band sawed off. That happens, and it's uncomfortable, but it's not what actually costs people their fingers. The real mechanism has almost nothing to do with tightness. It's called ring avulsion, and it happens in the opposite situation, a ring that's loose enough to catch on something while the rest of the hand keeps moving. The physics of it are straightforward. A ring is a rigid metal band wrapped around soft tissue. It doesn't stretch, it doesn't give, and it doesn't distribute force the way skin does. When that ring catches on something, a ladder rung, a fence, a piece of machinery, a bar during a pull-up, and the body's momentum keeps going, the entire force of that motion concentrates into a narrow circumferential band around one finger. The ring effectively becomes a tourniquet and a stripping tool at the same time. Skin, fat, tendon sheath, and blood vessels can be torn away from the bone in a single motion, sometimes with the bone itself left completely intact. Surgeons call this degloving, because that's almost exactly what it looks like. The finger comes out of its own soft tissue the way a hand comes out of a glove. What does it actually take? A biomechanical study using cadaver forearms measured this directly, applying controlled upward force to rings of different sizes until failure. The average force that produced a Class 1 injury, meaning the finger stayed intact with adequate circulation, was about 80 newtons. The average force that produced a complete avulsion requiring amputation was about 154 newtons. That's roughly 35 pounds of pulling force, far less than most people would guess it takes to tear tissue off bone. It's well within the range of force generated by an ordinary body falling even a short distance while a ring is caught on something stationary. The classification hand surgeons use for this is called the Urbaniak system. Class 1 means the finger has adequate blood supply and can typically be repaired. Class 2 means circulation is inadequate and the finger needs urgent microsurgical revascularization to survive. Class 3 means complete degloving or full amputation of the digit. Historically, Class 3 injuries were treated with revision amputation almost automatically because reattaching a finger with no remaining soft tissue rarely worked. Modern microsurgery has improved that somewhat, but outcomes are still the worst of the three categories by a wide margin. And the numbers on how often this happens are higher than almost anyone expects. Rings account for roughly 90% of all finger avulsion injuries treated in emergency departments, and finger avulsion and amputation injuries make up about 5% of all upper extremity trauma evaluated in US ERs. In industrialized countries, researchers estimate around 300 ring avulsion cases per year for every 60 million people. And contrary to what you'd expect, this isn't primarily an industrial accident. The most common triggers are almost embarrassingly ordinary: falling from a ladder and grabbing a rung on the way down, catching a ring on a fence while climbing over it, gripping machinery or a conveyor belt at work, and increasingly, working out. Pull up bars, monkey bars, rope climbs, and cross. Fit-style gym equipment show up constantly in the case reports because all of them involve exactly the scenario that causes this injury: a ring under load while the hand and body are moving fast. There's a catch though. A lot of people already know rings can be dangerous during exercise, which is why silicone safety rings have become popular, marketed specifically as breakaway alternatives that release before they can cause an avulsion injury. The data mostly backs that up. A direct biomechanical comparison found that silicone rings failed at an average force of about 53 newtons, well under the roughly 154 newtons that produces a full avulsion with a metal ring. And in that same study, zero degloving injuries occurred in the silicone ring group. Metal rings, by comparison, held on until an average of nearly 495 newtons before failing, meaning they transmit almost all of that force directly into the finger instead of releasing early. But there's a complication the marketing doesn't mention. That same study found the breakaway force of silicone rings nearly doubles to around 100 newtons when the hand is clenched into a fist. And a clenched fist is exactly what a hand does reflexively at the moment someone grabs a rung to catch a fall or grips a bar mid-exercise, precisely the moment's ring avulsion actually happens. The silicone ring is still dramatically safer than metal in that scenario. It's just not the flat universal guarantee the packaging implies. The margin of safety shrinks exactly when you need it most, It just doesn't disappear the way it does with metal. Even when treatment goes as well as it possibly can, the outcomes aren't clean. Across studies of complete finger and thumb avulsions where surgeons attempted replantation, the overall survival rate for the reattached digit is around 66%. For class 3 injuries specifically, when surgeons determine replantation is worth attempting at all, survival climbs to about 78%. In one detailed case series of 52 patients with inadequate circulation, 8 required immediate amputation, and of the 44 where doctors attempted to save the finger, 9 ultimately had to be amputated anyway. 19 were successfully revascularized, and 16 were fully replanted. Decirculation deficit that makes the finger painfully sensitive to cold for the rest of their life. Success, in this injury, doesn't mean things go back to normal. It means you keep the finger and live with a smaller version of the damage forever. It's worth saying plainly, ring avulsion is a catastrophic, life-altering injury, but the documented cases are almost entirely about losing a finger, not losing a life. Where the real danger to your life comes in is context. These injuries overwhelmingly happen during falls, at height, on ladders, on playground equipment, on machinery, exactly the situations where the ring is the least of your problems if the fall itself goes wrong. The ring doesn't usually kill you. It's a marker for the kind of moment that can. Practically, what changes if you take this seriously? If you work with machinery, climb, or lift regularly, either take the ring off entirely or switch to a certified breakaway silicone ring, understanding that its margin shrinks when your hand is clenched, not that it's foolproof. If a ring ever does catch and you're bleeding heavily, direct pressure and immediate emergency care matter more than anything else, and if any tissue is fully separated, wrapping it in slightly damp gauze inside a sealed bag, then placing that bag on ice rather than directly in it, meaningfully improves the odds of successful reattachment. None of this means take the ring off forever. It means understanding that the object on your finger has a threshold, a specific number of newtons, past which the metal wins, and the finger doesn't, and that number is lower than almost anyone assumes.